Homeless musician played one last song. A record producer heard it and everything changed. The subway platform at Chambers Street smelled of November. Cold concrete, distant rain, the metallic breath of trains passing through tunnels like sighs. Marcus Chen stood at the far end of the platform, away from the crowd, his cashmere coat pulled tight against the chill that seeped through the underground. He was 53 years old, and he had produced 14 platinum albums, launched the careers of artists whose voices now filled stadiums across the world. His name appeared in gold letters on awards that gathered dust in his Tribeca apartment. And yet, standing there beneath the flickering fluorescent lights, he felt like a man made of smoke, present, but barely. 3 years since Helen died. 3 years since music stopped meaning anything at all. He came to this platform every Thursday evening, though he couldn't say why. Something about the anonymity of it, the rushing crowds who didn't know his name, didn't want anything from him. He would stand here for 20 minutes, letting trains pass, watching strangers disappear into the city's veins, and then he would walk home alone to an apartment full of silence. Tonight, the platform was quieter than usual. A few commuters scattered like autumn leaves, faces lit blue by phone screens. And then, guitar strings. Soft at first, almost shy, threading through the subway's industrial hum like light through water. Marcus turned toward the sound. A woman sat on a folded blanket near the stairs, her back against the tile wall. She was young, maybe early 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a loose braid, wearing a coat that had seen too many winters. Her guitar was old, the wood worn smooth in places where countless hands had held it before hers. She played with her eyes closed, fingers moving across the strings like they were speaking a language older than words. The melody was simple, heartbreaking in its simplicity. It climbed and fell like breath, like the rhythm of someone learning to hope again after forgetting how. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a door opening to a room he'd locked years ago. And then he noticed the child. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, sat beside the woman on the blanket. She wore a purple coat with a missing button, her small hands wrapped around a thermos. Her hair was the same dark brown as her mother's, falling in waves around a face that held the kind of quiet watchfulness children develop when they've learned the world doesn't always keep its promises. The girl was looking directly at Marcus. He should have looked away, should have checked his phone, pretended to be busy, done any of the 1,000 things people do to avoid connection in this city. But something in her gaze held him still. Not accusation, not pleading, just a steady, curious recognition, as if she could see past his expensive coat and polished shoes to the loneliness underneath. The one song ended. The woman opened her eyes, offered a tired smile to no one in particular, and began adjusting her guitar case. A few coins glinted at the bottom, not many. The little girl stood up. She walked toward Marcus with the unself-conscious purpose that only children possess, her sneakers making soft sounds against the platform floor. She stopped in front of him, tilted her head, and said, "You were really listening." Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry?" "To my mom's song." The girl's voice was clear, unhurried. "Most people walk by, but you were really listening. I could tell because your face changed." He didn't know what to say. Behind the girl, her mother had noticed the conversation and was rising, worry creasing her forehead. "That's a beautiful thing," the girl continued. "My mom says music only works if someone's really listening. Otherwise, it's just noise looking for a home. Lily?" The woman approached, guitar case in one hand, the folded blanket under her arm. "I'm so sorry, sir. She doesn't mean to bother you." "She's not bothering me." The words came out before Marcus could think them through. He looked at the woman, really looked at her, and saw the exhaustion carved into her features, the careful dignity in how she held herself, despite everything. "That song you played, did you write it?" The woman hesitated, as if kindness were a trap she'd learned to be wary of. "I did, a long time ago." "It's called November Light," Lily offered helpfully. "She wrote it when I was a baby. She says it's about hoping for something, even when you can't see it yet." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Helen had said something similar once, about the songs that mattered most, how they were just prayers set to melody, hope made audible. "I'm a music producer," he said, and immediately felt foolish. What did that matter down here, on a cold platform, to a woman whose home appeared to be a blanket and a guitar case? "I'm sorry. That's not, I just meant, it's been a long time since I've heard something that honest." The woman's expression shifted, something guarded softening just slightly. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That means more than you know." A train roared into the station, wind whipping past them. Commuters pushed through the doors. The woman gathered her things, preparing to move, perhaps to another platform, another corner of the city's indifferent maze. "Wait," Marcus said. "Please." She paused. Lily watched him with those old soul eyes. "There's a coffee shop upstairs," he said. "Let me buy you both something warm, that's all. Just let me do that." The woman studied him, years of hard lessons visible in her hesitation. But Lily tugged gently at her mother's sleeve. "He was really listening, Mom," she said softly. "He's safe." Something passed between mother and daughter, a silent conversation Marcus couldn't hear, but could feel. Finally, the woman nodded. "Okay," she said. "Something warm sounds nice." Her name was Sarah. Sarah Mills. She'd been a session musician once. Backup vocals, guitar work for artists whose names Marcus recognized. She'd been good, really good. But then her husband left when Lily was 2, and the gig work dried up during the pandemic, and one missed rent check became 2, became 3, became an eviction notice on a door that no longer belonged to her. "We've been in shelters mostly," Sarah said, her hands wrapped around a cup of hot chocolate. Lily sat beside her, carefully eating a blueberry muffin, making it last. "The good ones fill up fast. Sometimes we find places to stay, friends of friends, that kind of thing. But mostly we're just moving." "For how long?" 8 months. Sarah's voice didn't waver, but Marcus saw the cost of those words in the shadows under her eyes. "I play in the subways because it's warm, and sometimes people are kind. Lily does her homework at the library during the day. We're making it work." Marcus looked at the little girl, who had pulled a worn notebook from her mother's bag and was carefully writing letters with a stubby pencil. 6 years old, doing homework in libraries, sleeping in shelters, and still she'd walked up to a stranger to tell him he was really listening. "You have extraordinary talent," Marcus said carefully. "That song, November Light, it's not just good, it's the kind of song that finds the ache in people and gives it somewhere to go. I've worked with dozens of artists who would give anything to write something that true." Sarah shook her head slowly. "That's kind of you to say, but kindness doesn't pay rent." She smiled, taking the edge off her words. "I learned that lesson pretty well. What if it could?" Sarah went still. Even Lily looked up from her letters. "I have a studio," Marcus continued, speaking faster now, as the idea took shape in his mind. "I have connections. I haven't produced anything in 3 years because nothing's felt worth producing. But that song, what you played down there, I can't stop hearing it. It's the first piece of music that's made me feel anything since my wife died." He hadn't meant to say that last part. It just came out, like a door swinging open in the wind. Sarah's eyes softened. "I'm sorry. About your wife?" Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice for a moment. "Her name was Helen. She always said music was how people told each other the truth when regular words weren't big enough. I forgot that, somewhere along the way. Until tonight." Lily had stopped writing. She was watching the 2 adults with that quiet intensity children have when they sense something important is happening. "I'm not offering charity," Marcus said. "I'm asking for help. I need to remember why music mattered, and you need someone to hear what you've been creating. Maybe we can help each other." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Outside the coffee shop window, city lights blurred in the November drizzle. The world rushed past. Taxis, pedestrians, 1,000 private journeys. Through the cold. "What would that look like?" she asked finally. "Helping each other?" Marcus pulled out his card and slid it across the table. "Come to the studio tomorrow. Bring Lily. We'll record November Light properly, just to see how it sounds with real production. No strings attached. If you don't like what we create, you walk away with nothing lost. But if it works," he paused, choosing his words carefully. "If it works, maybe it's the beginning of something." Sarah picked up the card, turning it over in her hands. Marcus Chen Productions. An address in Manhattan that might as well have been on the moon. "Mom," Lily said quietly, "remember what you always tell me? That hope is just being brave enough to try?" Sarah laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of her. She looked at her daughter with a tenderness that made Marcus's heart ache. "When did you get so wise?" she asked. "I learned from you," Lily said simply. Sarah turned back to Marcus. Her eyes were bright now, something kindling there that hadn't been present on the subway platform. "Okay," she said, "tomorrow." 3 months later, Marcus stood at the window of his studio, watching snow fall over Manhattan. The city was white and hushed, the usual cacophony muffled into something almost peaceful. Behind him, Sarah sat at the piano, working through a new arrangement of a song she'd written that morning. She'd written 11 songs in 3 months, a flood of music that had been dammed up for years, finally released. November Light had become a small sensation after Marcus quietly shared it with a few trusted contacts. A streaming feature here, a playlist placement there, and suddenly people were listening. Really listening. Lily sat on the studio couch, her homework spread around her. Real homework now, from the school she attended, since Sarah signed the lease on a small apartment in Brooklyn. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm, and it was theirs. Lily had a room with a purple comforter and a bookshelf that grew fuller every week. Marcus? Lily's voice pulled him from the window. How do you spell extraordinary? He crossed to the couch and sat beside her. Extraordinary. What's it for? We're supposed to write about something extraordinary that happened to us. She chewed her pencil, thinking. Is it okay if I write about you? Marcus felt something bloom in his chest, warmth spreading outward like light through glass. I think the extraordinary thing was your mom's music, sweetheart. I just happened to be in the right place to hear it. Lily shook her head firmly. You were listening, she said. That was the extraordinary part. Anyone could have heard it, but you listened. Sarah looked up from the piano, catching Marcus's eye. She smiled, and in that smile was everything they'd built together. The late-night recording sessions, the shared dinners in the studio kitchen, the moment Marcus had held Lily's hand as she blew out the candles on her 7th birthday cake. Chosen family, Marcus thought. Helen would have loved this. 1 year after that first night, Marcus returned to the Chambers Street platform. He wasn't alone this time. Sarah walked beside him, her hand tucked through his arm. She was wearing a new coat, warm, well-made, but she carried the same old guitar, the wood still worn smooth by countless hands. Lily skipped ahead, her purple boots splashing in puddles left by the afternoon rain. This is the spot, she announced, pointing to the place where the tile wall met the stairs. This is where Mom was sitting when you found us. When you found me, Marcus corrected gently, you walked right up to me and told me I was really listening. Bravest thing anyone's ever done. Lily beamed, that megawatt smile she'd developed over months of regular meals and stable sleep, and being told every day that she was loved. Sarah set down her guitar case and pulled out the instrument. One more song, she said. For old time's sake? She sat down on the platform floor, just as she had a year ago. Marcus lowered himself beside her, his expensive coat pressed against cold concrete. Lily settled on his other side, leaning her head against his shoulder, and Sarah began to play. The melody was familiar. November Light, the song that had changed everything. But there were new notes woven through it now, harmonies that hadn't existed before. The sound filled the platform, rose up through the stairwell, drifted out into the city above. Commuters paused, phone screens lowered. For a few suspended minutes, strangers became an audience, bound together by something they couldn't name but could feel. When the final chord faded, there was silence. Then applause, scattered at first, then growing, filling the underground space with warmth. Lily tugged at Marcus's sleeve. She wrote new words for the second verse, she whispered. Want to know what they're about? Tell me. The little girl smiled, her dark eyes bright with a joy that had taken root and flourished over the past year. Finding home, she said simply. They're about finding home when you thought all the doors were closed, and about how sometimes the people who save you are the ones you never expected. Marcus looked at Sarah, who was accepting compliments from a small crowd of commuters. She caught his gaze and smiled. That same smile from the coffee shop, but fuller now, lit from within. He'd spent 3 years as a man made of smoke. Empty offices, silent apartments, music that meant nothing. And then a little girl had walked up to him on a subway platform and told him he was really listening. That was the extraordinary part, Marcus thought. Not that he'd found them, but that they'd let themselves be found. That Sarah had trusted her hope to a stranger in a cashmere coat. That Lily had looked at a lonely man and seen someone worth believing in. That all 3 of them had chosen, in their different ways, to be brave enough to try. The subway rumbled in the distance, another train approaching. The crowd dispersed, returning to their journeys. But Marcus stayed seated on the cold platform floor, Sarah's hand finding his, Lily tucked warm between them. Above them, the city moved on. But here, in this small corner of the underground, 3 people who had been lost had finally found their way home, to each other, to hope, to a love none of them had dared to imagine. And somewhere in the tunnels below, the echoes of November Light lingered, a song that had finally found someone to listen. Some people spend their whole lives searching for home. Others discover that home isn't a place at all. It's a moment of connection, a hand extended in kindness, a child brave enough to tell a stranger that their listening mattered. The greatest songs aren't written in studios or concert halls. They're written in subway stations and coffee shops, in the small spaces between strangers who choose to become family. And sometimes, all it takes is one song, played by someone who refused to stop hoping, to remind us what music was always meant to be. A way of finding each other in the dark,